Today's week 5, day 3. We're going to continue with our tic-tac-toe game. But we're now going to introduce something funner, right? A game that you cannot share your score with is not very fun, right? And we're gonna conceptually figure out how to do that. No, we're not gonna conceptually figure out how to do that. We're going to figure out how to do that. Okay? So you guys can see that we have our tic-tac-toe game from yesterday. If a user wins, they win, right? Also, there's a log out button. It's not very pretty. That's not the objective. The objective here is to log in and log out using Facebook. Okay? So when the user goes to our website, if they've previously logged in, right, then they won't see this right here. So if I log in, for example, I click log in, I can use my Facebook account, click continue, and now I'm logged in. Okay? If I refresh our app, I can see that I'm still logged in. Let's go ahead and add one more level of complexity. Let's add an H1. We're gonna say this.state.current user and this.state.current user.name. Okay, so there we go. You can see that whenever I log in, my name pops up. Okay, very clear, right? All right, so in order to do this, we're going to be using a new library. And I've already implemented this, so now I'm just going to delete everything that I have real quick. My bad. Go and delete all this. Okay, that looks good. Good. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this right here. Go ahead and delete this one right here. Go ahead and delete this initial state. Save it, refresh it. We see that we're back to the original place, okay? So you guys can see that in our lab, today we're gonna be using this thing called React Facebook Login. You guys can click it and you guys can see the documentation right here on GitHub. It's not that difficult to use. All you gotta do is run this command right here. npm install all this right here. Obviously, you don't need to do these two because you already have it by default. You can just run this command right here, okay? I've already ran this command. That's why if we look at my package.json, you're gonna see Facebook login right here on line 8, okay? Version 4.1.1, okay? I ran that command. I can see that this requirement in order to implement Facebook login, we need to import this library, okay? There it is. So we import a component from this library, from this package for use. All right, so what's the next step? You can see that in the documentation that we have two examples. One is a function that will handle the response. The other one is the actual component that we're going to use. Okay? So we're gonna copy over the component and we're just gonna stick it somewhere inside of our game board. Okay? Obviously these values do not work. We need to change out some values. So the first problem that I see is we need to have these two functions defined. Okay? So right now, let's just go ahead and comment them out and see what happens. So we hop back over to our React app. We can see that app is not set up. Okay? The reason why this is because, my bad, I skipped one step. You guys got to go to developers.facebook.com and create a new app. Okay? Creating an app is basically saying, hey, I have an app that's going to use Facebook login. Can you please give me permission to have a Facebook login? When you guys create an app, you got to select the type, select the Facebook login thing and turn it on, okay? Turn it on, and then you should have an app ID right here. So we copy this app ID. We're gonna paste it where?
Can you show us how to do the
local environment for what?
For hiding it for GitHub.
Hiding what?
Hiding the ID.
Okay, so remember, guys. So you guys like we had to have credentials, and these credentials need to be secret. Okay, I don't want anyone to be able to sign in using my ID. So in order for this to work, we need to create a new file. It's .env.local. Okay. And inside this file, if you guys will look inside, if you guys, for example, look inside of your inside your file explorer, you're gonna see a hidden file right here. git ignore, okay? You're not going to see this file by default. This is a hidden file, okay? And you guys will see, you can put almost anything you want in here. These files, Git will never ever pay attention to. You'll never ever get these values inside of Git. That's what the objective of the git ignore file is. See, it says git ignore right there. It's ignore these files. These files cannot be shared, should not be shared. Okay? So at that point, what do I need to do? Can I just say hello world and then stick in my value? No. I had to put in React app hello world. And I'm gonna prove that this works, okay? So I'm gonna copy this over here. At the very top of our app, we're just gonna say console.log test environment variable. I'm gonna move this down. Our linter is complaining that we need to import at the very top. That's how it always goes. Okay? And then what are we gonna test here, guys? We're gonna see whether or not we have process.environment.hello world. And then we're gonna see if we have process.environment.react at hello world. Okay, so if I save both of these files and I refresh, should I see something in my console? If I save and refresh, should I see something in my console, guys? The answer is no. We're not going to see anything because we need to restart our server. Whenever we define a new environment variable, we always restart our servers, okay? Our environment variables are only going to be looked at one time. They're going to be looked at one time whenever we start the application. So now if I run npm start, and then momentarily whenever you see the application kicks off, we're going to see that we have one defined. But why did the hello world not get defined? Because it's a convention, okay? In React, we have to name it this way. Otherwise, it's not globally accessible. We can't find it, okay? It has to start off with React app. That's how the environment variables work. So now you can see that hello world does not work, but React app hello world works, okay? So what are we gonna do with this React app hello world? We're gonna stick it in here. That's all we gotta do, okay? So now we're telling Facebook, hey, this is who I am. Yes, you have to. That's the convention. You have to call it that. It does not have to be all caps, but that is also a convention.
Underscore and then underscore, whatever.
This means that this value does not change throughout the life cycle of our application. It's a constant. Anything that's constant is capitalized. For example, what's something that's constant? Pi. Right? Pi is always going to be 3.14. It can never ever be anything else. Things that are constant will always be capitalized, okay? That's how we know that they're constant. And that's why you guys, it's just there's certain conventions that we follow, okay? And this is the ones I'm telling you about right now. This is not a convention right here. This is a rule, okay? Obviously, you can stick in environment variables in another way, but this is the best way to do it, okay? Create one file. Create environment variables that start with the words React app. Give it values.
Environment variables are variables that you want to hide from Git, but are going to work throughout your
And environment variables are things that will change depending on whose machine you're running on. So for example, I have my app, right? It's working on localhost 3000, right? I have my code, it runs, I know it works, right? I push it to www.primetimetrend.com. So now certain things are not going to work the same. For example, a redirect URL. I cannot tell, for example, if someone's at Facebook, for example, right? You go to Facebook, you click a button, for example, this right here, Lloyd right here, it goes to facebook.com/primetimetrend. I click it, facebook.com/primetimetrend. But I'm testing this application locally. This right here, facebook.com becomes what? Yes, localhost 3000/primetimetrend. So I need this to programmatically change. And I don't want to hard code this every single time that I push to production. You guys remember production, right? The concept of production is where you show what you've learned and like what you're worth, okay? If your app only works on localhost 3000 and it does not work on www.example.com, you're wasting everyone's time. We need to get our code into production. That is the end goal. Everything else in this class, everything supports this one goal of getting into production. all the get, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We need our code in production. So anyway, environment variables, right? I could stick in something, right? React at local host. Now say this is where I'm working, okay? And then we'll say something like React at production host. This gets more advanced, obviously, okay? Imagine if I owned HTTP, I don't know, www.facebook.com, okay? Imagine that's what the URLs has. So eventually later on, when you guys start moving to production, before you even make any API requests, what you got to do is what? You got to check your environment. Check your environment. You say something like a component did mount. You say if environment.development, no, process.environment equals development, then URL is going to start with something. URL is going to start with, I don't know, process.environment.react at local host. Okay? I named this wrong. I named this wrong right here. Otherwise what? Otherwise what? Exactly. So, and this is why I told you guys need to stick everything starting off inside of your app file, okay? Your app file is going to tell all the other components what URLs to go to, okay? So now we're going to pass in this environment, this URL to all the other things, and we're going to know, like, okay, are we in development? If we're in development, I should be making requests to my local server. If I'm in production, I need to be making requests to my production server. And I know that may not seem clear to you, to students who haven't been here before, but I hope Kwa and other students understand what the goal is here, okay? The goal here is just basically just know that these values are going to change. If you're working on your app, you're testing it, then you want this URL to be localhost 3000. If you're in production, it needs to have the value that of your production website. Okay, so we got off on a tangent. What are we doing again? We're doing Facebook login, okay? So let's go ahead and okay, so you guys notice once again, the one that does not start with React app fails. And none of these values are in, remember, because we did not restart our server, okay? So let me go ahead and delete my console logs up here to clean up as we go. And what do we have? We have a Facebook login button, right? A Facebook login. So what's the first requirement? If a user is not logged in, they should see a button. If they are logged in, they should not see a button, right? First requirement. I'm playing a game. How can I play the game if I'm not logged in, right? I need to log in first. So in this case, we're going to decide, hey, if the user is not logged in, we do not show them. We do not show them anything. They're not allowed to do anything. So we're gonna say this.state.current user is not equal to null. If this is true, what do we do now? Simply do whatever, we do that thing right there, okay? We just show it. This code is going to look messy. Oops. Oops. Cannot read property current user of null. What's the complaint here, guys? It's saying I need to give it some initial state. Okay, so when the app first loads, the current user is null. So what's the next step, guys? How can we save something on the user's computer to know that they're logged in? What's the first thing we need to check? We need to check whether or not they have a token stored locally, okay? So how can we get some code to execute as soon as a component mounts? We're gonna use component did mount, and we're gonna prove that this code will execute as soon as the code launches, okay? We're gonna do game component did mount. Game component did mount, okay? If I refresh, we see that our component did mount did in fact fire, okay? The component did mount, the function actually fired. So what are we gonna do here? We're gonna look at local storage. We're gonna say, hey, local storage, I wanna get this item. What item do you wanna get? We can call it whatever we want, okay? I'm gonna call this Facebook login, okay? We're gonna do const current user, okay? And then we're simply going to look at current user. Do we have a current user? And the answer is yes. Because I logged in earlier, I deleted code, and I forgot to delete this token, okay? So to prove how we're gonna work this, I'm going to simply delete it, okay? So now we're going to refresh, and we can see that our current user is null. We do not have a current user, okay? So at this point, what do we know? Go slower. You guys have any questions? You're lost already?
Yeah.
What the hell, man? We've only defined. Okay, so we talked about environment variables. We imported it. It's okay. We imported a single. Library, right? We defined an environment variable over here with our Facebook login credentials, right? Right? We use that in a second right here inside of our app ID to get permission to log users in, right? Because when we log a user in, we're going to get like their email, their phone number, gender, but just a whole bunch of valuable data.
So when you imported that Facebook thing, you have that Facebook login element. How do you know the?
It's right here. We imported it from the library.
So are there more like customizable fields that you can put in there?
Of course, yes. So if in your settings right here, so Facebook is like, they're a powerful organization, man. They can do whatever the fuck they want. You know, we're at their mercy, okay? We have to do certain things to get certain things from Facebook, right? So they'll give me the email of a user, right? Like as soon as you guys use Facebook, you've already given them permission to do this, right? But I have to reach certain like goals by Facebook. Like Facebook will say like, okay, you have to have 20 people like your page before you have the permission to do this. You have to have 100 people like your page. In order to create a game, an app like this right here, I think almost all of them have to have one Facebook page. You have to create a brand new Facebook page, and this page needs to have a certain amount of users and etc. And then as you have more users, you have developed a following. You're drawing people into the Facebook ecosystem. Then they give you more permission to do different things. Okay, let me clear out everyone.
So in order to get the ID, you have to.
So you just create a free account. Go to developers.facebook.com. Actually, let's go ahead and pause it right now. I've been talking for 18 minutes. I want you guys all to go to Facebook. Okay, so what do we have so far, guys? We got an app ID. We've got a Facebook login button. We've successfully hidden the button. The board should be hidden by default until a user has logged in. That's simple, okay? So we added a conditional inside the body of our return, right here. This is conditional. It says, hey, I have to have a user before I show the user the board, okay? So what is the next step? Well, if you guys look in our the documentation, you can see that they defined a function for us right here. Right? You see the function right here they defined? It's right there. Okay? So we're just going to copy this to the very top. We save. We jump back over to our app. We click login with Facebook. And we can see that the pop-up occurs. Okay? Now if we click continue, you guys are going to see that function fires. And you see that when we click continue, this function fires, right? So this object that Facebook gave us as a response, what does it contain? It has an access token, an email, an ID. This is my unique Facebook ID. This has permissions. That's a picture, height, just a bunch of cool shit, right? This is the basic of what a user is. So a moment ago, I heard someone ask, where do I put this function? Well, because this object, we need this guy. Where do we need it? We need it inside of our app. So we're just gonna define it inside our app, right there. So that means what? The callback that we pass to the Facebook component, it changes how? Changes just like that, very simple. If I save it, I refresh, I click login with Facebook, I click continue, it does not fail. Okay, this belongs inside our app component right now. That's where it belongs. Okay, so that's not good enough. I got a response from Facebook when I logged in. What is the next step? No, let's talk in code, guys. What's the next step? Come on. Well, how are we going to show the board? Guys, if a user clicks a button on our app, doesn't that mean that they're initializing some type of state change, right? And then if that response comes back and it's successful, doesn't that mean that the state of our application has changed, right? They click the button, They popped up that Facebook login, they clicked continue, they entered their password correctly. Let's think about this, okay? I click this button. It shows me my Facebook login. I enter my password, I click continue. Isn't the next logical step that the state of our application has changed? We now have a current user. So that's all we gotta do now. We just simply say, okay, this dot set state, what? Current user is what? It's the response, okay? So now if I save this and I click login and I click continue, notice how the board appears. Do you guys see that? The board appears as soon as the user logs in. I click login. I click continue. The first time it will ask you to click continue, but after you've authorized the app, Facebook doesn't bother asking you again. Does that make sense, everyone? I click login. Facebook doesn't even bother to ask me again because I've already given this app permissions, okay? I can use Facebook to log into how many other accounts? An infinite number of accounts. How many apps are there in the world that we can log in with Facebook with? Just an infinite, okay? We've already given Facebook permission to give our information to this one app. So Facebook does not ask again. Okay, so now that the user has logged in, what is the next step? If a user is logged in, should they see a login with Facebook button? Yes, very simple. We should hide it. So we're gonna do here. We're gonna do this dot state dot current user is equal to null. If they're equal to null, what are we gonna do? We're gonna show it. So watch this. Oops. I refresh, I log in, I click continue. And you guys will notice that the button hides and the game shows. Okay, it's a very common pattern. Show something in a certain situation, hide something in a different situation. Okay, I hope this is clear to everyone. All right, so what is the next step? What's the problem now? If I refresh, you notice that I have to sign back in. So now we're gonna revisit a concept that we had earlier in this class. Okay? When we get our response back from Facebook, what do we need to do? Yes, we need to stick this in local storage. So we're gonna say local storage dot set item, and I'm gonna call this Facebook login. What am I gonna stick in here, guys? Response. Is that okay? Who says this is okay? Line 127. What's wrong with it? It will be security reason. You can do this, but we have another problem. Well, I'm telling you what line there's a problem. There's a problem on line 127, guys. Someone help me out here. No, so we set it. We already have it right here in response. It's the argument to this function. So I don't need to look at it again. I already have it as response on line 125. We have a problem on line 128 though. We need to parse it, okay? Or we need to stringify it. Because if I do log in with Facebook and I continue, and we look at our app, and then we look at the value inside Facebook login, is that something we can use? No, we cannot use that. What do we need to do? We need to JSON.stringify, and then pass in that response, okay? So watch this. I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna log in with Facebook. And there you can see that we actually have an object we can grab out now, okay? Here's an object. We cannot skip this step. I guarantee you your app fails if you skip this step. Okay, so now we can see that I logged in. When we log in, we successfully stick something in our local storage. Yet, whenever I refresh the page, we still are indicated with this button. So what is the next step? When the component mounts, we need to look at our local storage, guys. Okay? We need to say, hey, do I have a current user? Do I? If so, what do I do? Okay? So we're gonna look at this right here. I expect to see something in our console log because I forgot I already did that. My bad. I already did that, okay? But is this good enough? Is current user here usable? What do we need to do with this? Yes, we need to parse it. JSON.parse. Okay? Now if you refresh, you're gonna see I have an object. This is not a string, this is an object. What we were looking at a few moments ago was just a string. Okay? And that's not something we can manipulate easily. Obviously, we could write a whole bunch of functions and then just say, look at this entire string. Look, but that would take forever. I advise you to parse it. These are two different things. That's why their colors are different. Okay? So now what are we going to do with this current user? We're going to say if the component did mount, if current user is not equal to null or current user. Okay, I don't know what it's going to be actually. So let's just test. Local storage dot get item. Okay, what are we going to get? I don't know, hello or something. Okay? So it comes back null. Okay, so all we got to do is check null right here. Okay? So if our current user is not null, we run this dot set state, and then we do what? Current user is this thing right here. Okay? So now I anticipate when I refresh that we do not see the Facebook login. And if I refresh, I do not see the Facebook login. If I refresh, I do not see the Facebook login. If I delete my local token and I refresh, I do in fact see the Facebook login. Okay? So let's log in. And you guys notice watch what happens to one of these local tokens right here. Okay? We log in, we're going to see what happened, guys. One got added. Okay? Can you guys all implement that for me, please?